Maxwell always said, why do you keep asking about Trump and not the Clintons? Watkins claimed. That seems like a pretty big deal. All right, so we got a bunch of new Epstein stuff as usual, but and some other stuff from Ghislaine Maxwell's cellmate. Okay, so a friend of Ghislaine Maxwell who served time with her has made a premonition about what she thinks is about to happen to Ghislaine, and it is what you would anticipate that they are going to say, because they are afraid for her safety, and I think that is a reasonable thing, and she's going to explain exactly why, things that she talked to her about, so on and so forth. We're also going to talk about this, okay, because there are shocking reports going around that the Republicans are blocking Ghislaine Maxwell from speaking in front of Congress, which would be a massive problem for me, just to be clear, like a really, really big problem. And what's going on in that case is, like, I'm hearing two sides of this thing, and I'm very curious to hear what you guys think about it also, because apparently the Republicans are blocking it. The Democrats want her to testify, and I'm like, that better not be true. If the Republicans are really blocking this, that better not be true, because guess what? Mike Johnson says that he supports Ghislaine Maxwell testifying to Congress and demands the DOJ release everything they have on Epstein. Well, then, so how come I'm seeing in Newsweek that the Republicans voted against an amendment that the Democrats put out saying that they wanted all of the evidence released? Okay, I heard Tim Pool's take on it. He said that why they were voting against it is because they don't want the videos of kids being assaulted released, which is totally reasonable. But my question is, why didn't they just amend that amendment then and say, obviously excluding any videos of actual abuse that are not, I don't know, like blank out the kid, or I don't know, like write it down. That's why you write things down. This is why we write things down. Okay, word it out. If there are any videos of any perpetrators with kids or anyone else committing crimes, okay, we want those out, but with the proper techniques implemented that are going to protect the identities of the victims, okay? Like, that should be the only stipulation on this. We want total transparency. So we're going to listen to what he said. And then also, the big guy had some stuff to say about this as well, because he gave a statement here, and we're going to go through those stories. Now, before we get into it, though, I want to remind everybody to subscribe to this channel and also forward this to your friends, post it on social media. I would show you my analytics, but every single one of these videos that I do, I lose subscribers, every single one. And the reason for that is because they do not show it to anyone new unless you guys show it to them, okay? Like, if it's about the big guy, if it's about Epstein, whatever, I have no reach. The only way that changes is if you guys like the video and then share it among your friends. So we're going to handshake it. If you watch my content, you will please subscribe and you will like the video. You don't need to share it. That's an extra. If you guys would like to do that, that would be very, very helpful. And also, I want to tell you about the sponsor of this video, Ground News, because this is how I know what's true and what's not. And that is exactly how you should know what's true and what's not, because absent Ground News, you won't. Now let's thank the sponsor of this video, Ground News. Now, you probably saw the headline: a trans Antifa militant arrested after allegedly attacking a federal officer with a knife outside of the Portland ICE facility. Pretty wild, right? But depending on where you get your news, you might not have even heard about that story. And that's exactly why I use Ground News. It's an app that actually shows you how every story is being reported across the political spectrum. This one, 13 sources covered it, and 38% were in the center, and the rest of them were on the right. What does that leave? 0 on the left, not 1. How do I know about that? I know about that because of this box right there, the bias distribution bar. You can literally see how many left, center, and right-leaning sources are covering a topic, and for this one, pretty skewed. And my favorite feature, the blind spot feed. It shows you stories people on your side of the aisle are not seeing. That's actually how I found this one. I looked at the left-wing blind spot. Now, Ground News has made me way more aware of my media political bubble, and it gives me the full picture fast. And I've got a deal for you. 40% off their unlimited Vantage plan. Just $5 a month. Go to ground.news/Jesse. That's GROUND.news, NEWS/Jesse, JESSE. Or scan the QR code on screen. Trust me, if you care about the truth, this is going to be a real game changer. All right, so we're going to start with the Mike Johnson video, and then we're going to watch the big guy video, and then we're going to go to the Ghislaine Maxwell story. So that's the order we're going to do this. Let's listen to what Speaker Mike Johnson said about this situation right now.
Speaker Johnson, this is sort of on the heels of something else that a lot of people are asking questions about, and because we've been lied to by our federal government for so long, I feel like there's some type of there's a pain point, right? And a pressure cooker that gets heated up on issues like the Epstein issue,
Yeah.
right? And obviously that's something that's taken over a lot of the online dialogue. I have a question here about it that concerns either testifying or testimony for Ghislaine Maxwell, potentially before Congress, or if you would support members like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Anna Paulina Luna on the release of subpoenaing the Epstein documents from the DOJ, whether you would support either of those.
Yeah, I haven't talked to Marjorie or Anna about that specific subject, but I'm for transparency. We're intellectually consistent in this. We look, Reagan used to tell us we should trust the American people. I believe in that principle. I know President Trump does as well, and I trust him. I mean, he put together a team of his choosing, and they're doing a great job. It's a very delicate subject, but we should put everything out there and let
Why is it delicate?
the people decide it. I mean, the White House and the White House team are privy to facts that I don't know. I mean, this isn't my lane. I haven't been involved in that. But I agree with the sentiment that we need to put it out there. And you know, Pam Bondi, I don't know, when she originally made the statement, I think she was talking about documents, as I understood it, they were on her desk. I don't know that she was specific about a list or whatever, but she needs to come forward and explain that to everybody. I like Pam. I mean, I think she's done a good job. We need the DOJ focusing on the major priorities. So let's get this thing resolved so that they can deal with violent crime and public safety and election integrity and going after Act Blue and the things that the president is most concerned about as we.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So here is my take on that. First of all, Betty Johnson is doing an excellent job with this, dude. I give a lot of credit to everybody who are kind of these party line conservative pundits that are sticking to their guns on this, right? Like, and I'll tell you why I say that, right? Because it should be, you know, everybody's like, well, obviously. Well, it's not obvious, actually, because some of these guys have relationships inside of the administration. You know what I mean? Like, they have relationships. They know Kash Patel. They know Dan Bongino. They know, in some cases, they know the big guy, you know? Like, if you know these people, you have a relationship with Trump, you are going to want to be really careful not to make him feel like you're betraying him. But like the reality is, like, you also need to maintain your authenticity and your credibility. This is a moment where people can burn their credibility to the ground, like burn it to the fucking ground. Okay. If all of a sudden, if you're a person who's been like, release the Epstein file, release him. We need to see him. We need to see him. And then boom, all of a sudden it's like, listen guys, you know, I'm going to change my tune on this. You know, I'm going to change my tune. Then you know what people think about you is that they can't trust you anymore. They don't trust your integrity, and they don't trust. Doesn't mean that you're doing something inauthentic necessarily. Like, maybe you have information they don't have. But this is real touchy. Like, this is a real touchy situation, you know? So if Mike Johnson flip-flops on this, you know, he's being careful. That is him being very careful in that statement. But so is the big guy. Okay, here's what Trump says right here, and let's listen to what he says, and then we'll get into the Ghislaine Maxwell stuff.
A very quick briefing.
Did she tell you, what did she tell you about the review? And specifically, did she tell you at all that your name appeared in the file?
No, she's given us just a very quick briefing, and in terms of the credibility of the different things that they've seen. And I would say that, you know, these files were made up by Comey, they were made up by Obama, they were made up by the Biden, we went through years of that with the Russia hoax, with all of the different things that we had to go through. We've gone through years of it, but she's handled it very well, and it's going to be up to her. Whatever she thinks is credible, she should release. A very quick.
There you go. By the way, guys, you know what just dropped? Okay. The full confession of the Minnesota assassin Vance Bolter. Okay. Now we're going to get into that in another video. Quote, Tim Waltz wanted me to kill Amy Klobuchar. If you think I'm making this up, just get on the phone and tell Tim you have a few questions for him. Then ask Tim Waltz if he knows me and see what he says. Wow. And I have his entire statement right here. Whoa. Okay. Wow. That's a big video. Anyway, so definitely be on the lookout for that, because that is going to be a banger. Okay, so now let's move over to the Ghislaine Maxwell story. So Ghislaine Maxwell's former cellmate shares chilling premonition of what she thinks will happen to Epstein's fixer. So Ghislaine Maxwell's former cellmate shared a chilling premonition after Jeffrey Epstein's former accomplice revealed she would tell all about the pedophile's sex trafficking scheme. Jessica Watkins, a trans veteran who was serving time for the January 6th riots before receiving a pardon from Donald Trump, suggests the 63-year-old Maxwell could meet the same fate as Epstein, who was found dead in his prison cell. Just putting this out, this is a quote from from her. So just putting this out there, I know Ghislaine Maxwell personally when I was in prison with her. She is not suicidal in the least. There are also virtually no working cameras in FCI Tallahassee, she added in an apparent reference to the suspicious coincidences around Epstein's death, which was ruled a... Watkins claimed that only maybe 10 cameras in the entire prison were present or working. Just getting ahead of potential narratives, Watkins said. Her chilling post implied Maxwell's life may be in danger after she expressed willingness to testify before Congress about the so-called Epstein list. Yeah, I think that's a fair concern right there. It comes amid a furious civil war between Trump's MAGA lieutenants after the Justice Department and Federal Bureau of Investigations stated there was no evidence that Epstein possessed a client list or blackmailed prominent individuals. I cannot believe they said that, dude. I still cannot believe they actually said that. So Watkins said that Maxwell vanish and it would not be by her own hand. She also does not do drugs, is in good health, and works out every day. And so no, quote, old age or, quote, natural causes argument will work either. This is her, transgender veteran who has been released from prison. Okay, so Watkins said Maxwell was drawn to her as the only other celebrity inmate in the Florida prison based on her being named as Trump's co-defendant in the January 6th legal case. Fortunately, Maxwell was actually very nice and a staunch advocate for her fellow inmates, Watkins said, adding that the Epstein accomplice lives in an open dorm and had about 50 witnesses who have eyes and ears on her at all times. She describes Maxwell as a, quote, model inmate who was sociable and kind. Well, that's sweet, you know, sociable. And I mean, listen, let's say hypothetically that it turns out that she wasn't someone who groomed teenagers to be, you know, turned out by Jeffrey Epstein. Then I would be very interested to hear about her character. But absent that, it's like I always need to feel like I need to make sure that everybody keeps their head on a swivel here, because just because you want Ghislaine Maxwell to testify and you want her, which I do also, let's not get mixed up here. And, you know, people are like, look, she's a really nice person. It's like, yeah, I know. There's a lot of really nice people who have done horrific things. Okay. You got to keep that in mind. If you're talking about somebody like, you know, I have Dubs on my channel all the time. Like, he's a good buddy of mine and we rap out, and it's like, you know, he committed a murder, did 24 years in prison, got reformed, contributing member of society. He got, you know, and a great dude, right? Ghislaine Maxwell, though, you're talking about someone who systematically groomed and turned out hundreds of girls, and her position in this operation, as far as I understand it, was to make young girls feel comfortable when they should have been and would have been very afraid that they were going to be victimized. So she got them nice and calm so they could be victimized. Okay, you're going to have a hard time convincing me that that's a good person, right? But, quote, so most people were nice to her. Doesn't mean she didn't do something evil, Watkins wrote, but generally she kept to herself. She's safer there than in the SHU, that's special housing unit, something Dubs also knows about. They sent her there sometimes for talking to the media. Watkins was sentenced to 8.5 years in prison for charges connected to the January 6th Capitol riot, including conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of an official proceeding. They wrote that twice. Conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction to an official proceeding, interfering with law enforcement officers during a civil disorder, and conspiracy to prevent an officer from discharging duties. The former Oath Keeper was released in January after Trump commuted sentences to time served. In my mind, I thought I was this heroic American moment where I thought people were going into our house. We were going to be heard. It was this moment where I lost all basic objectivity. I wasn't doing security anymore. I wasn't Medic Jess anymore. I was just another idiot. Oh, well, that's nice that you have that opinion now. I mean, look, dude, I'm not someone who thinks that like people who stormed the Capitol or like, were like, oh, it depends on who they were, you know. Did the police open the door for them, or did they break windows and attack police? You know, it's like if you attack the police, we got nothing to talk about. If they were like, hey, come on in, you know, let me show you the interior of this, this government building. Come on, it's the Capitol. Come on in. Then I'd be like, and you gave him 8.5 years in prison. You know what I mean? So circumstances matter on the January 6 people. While the pardoned January 6 rioter said she and Maxwell were not friends at all, they lived and worked together closely while behind bars. She always creeped me out, so I avoided her when I could. But even still, we talked often enough. In prison, it's kind of unavoidable. Watkins claimed that Maxwell was a very tight-lipped person about her case, but she did tell me, and I quote, they had no interest in me until Jeffrey, quote, died. However, Maxwell allegedly asked members of the media, why do you keep asking about Trump and not the Clintons? Oh, shit. That's funny. Why wouldn't you lead with that question? Why wouldn't you lead with that? How is that not the headline? How is that not the headline? The girl who was housed with Maxwell, or the person who was housed with Maxwell, asked members of the media, why do you keep asking about Trump? I'm sorry. Maxwell always said, why do you keep asking about Trump and not the Clintons? Watkins claimed. That seems like a pretty big deal, guys. Seems like a pretty big deal. Maxwell serving 20 years for her role in the scheme to sexually exploit and abuse multiple girls. Yada, yada. Epstein allegedly controlled a web of underage girls who passed around sex toys to his wealthy friends and billionaire business associates. A source told the Daily Mail she'll be happy to sit before Congress and tell her story. Despite the rumors, Ghislaine was never offered any kind of plea deal. No one from the government has ever asked her to share what she knows. She remains the only person to be jailed in connection with Epstein, and she would welcome the chance to tell the American public the truth. Yeah, I would love to hear that as well. Okay, let's listen to this too. This is a video.
You definitely don't want to miss.
There's a video of Maxwell talking to the media, but I'm going to read this also. Okay, Maxwell argues she should have been protected from prosecution as part of a non-prosecution agreement made by Epstein, her former lover and boss, in 2007 when he agreed to plead guilty to 2 minor charges of prostitution, sweetheart deal, which had him spend little time behind bars. Controversy continues to rage over the Justice Department's statement that there was no client list. Yeah, I mean. So, all right, let's watch this thing.
Met him. You know, looking back now.
She says she wished she never met him.
I honestly wish I'd never met him. You know, looking back now. I probably wish I had stayed in England. But leaving that aside, you know, I tried to leave and start a new job and move on from the end of 98, 99. So I wish that I had been more successful at moving on.
Okay. Well, yeah. I'm sure there are a lot of girls that wish that as well. You know. I would say that I think there's a lot of girls who would have... she had her appeal to overturn her conviction turned down yesterday. Her attorneys then appealed directly to President Trump, calling him the ultimate deal maker in hopes that he may overrule Attorney General Pam Bondi. He's not going to. Okay, so, man, this is wild, dude. That line about the Clintons, that is crazy, dude. That's crazy. I told you guys, dude, the Clintons are the scariest. They're the scariest people ever, dude. And I reiterate this every single time that I even talk about them on the channel. It's like, hey, dude, you don't need to kill me. All you have to do is just be like, hey, I know your name. So please don't talk about us anymore if you don't want to. I'll be like, oh, I'm sorry. Hey, by the way, check this out. Let me show you guys something. This is on Babylon B today. Look at CDC. People with dirt on Clintons have an 843% greater risk of suicide. Anyway, that's what I got. I love you guys. Bye bye.